Welcome to the Real Chat Podcast,
where we talk business, lifestyle, and mindset.
For the modern entrepreneur.
I'm Baxter Colburn.
I'm Allison Elise.
I'm Mandi Wilkie. Let's chat. We're back.
And we're back.
And we're back.
We're back.
We're alive, in
Hello.
case anybody was curious. I think this is probably the longest break we've ever taken.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But we knew that going into that break, right? Like we said, hey, it's coming to the end of the year. We had trips, we had life, we had all things kind of all happening. We're like, hey.
Holidays.
Reset.
Well,
kids.
yeah, even to each other. Like, I don't remember the last time. Was that the last time I saw you? Was our last recording?
I think
Think so?
Same.
It's been a while.
Yeah, or briefly, because you were taking photos of Alexis. And I saw you were laying on the floor taking
Correct.
pictures. I'm like, hi, Allie,
Of
bye,
Miles,
Allie. And
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
4 seconds that I saw you.
You're right. I didn't even really get to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been a minute for all of us. So if you're the listener, you're saying, where have you been? We also just haven't seen each other in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, and we also do this other like side hustle. And we all run our own.
The podcast is the full-time thing, I thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is true. Like people assume that this is an easy thing to schedule between three business owners that are also parents, that also have lives outside of our jobs. And it's not that easy.
No, absolutely not.
It's not.
No way.
It's easier now that we're not filming.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're sitting at my dining room table, which is wonderful, and just talking. And it's just so nice to be able to be back in the same space with the both
Agreed.
of you. I've
Agreed.
missed both of you, and it's just not been the same having this general routine built into my every couple weeks, to see both
know.
of you. So
Yeah, we get
wonderful to see
the
you.
text thread going, hey, when can we connect? And it's like 14 weeks from now,
It's
we'll
so
all
true.
be together.
Schedules are a little tight.
Get
Like trying to book
tight.
with your dentist. It's like, what do you have happening in September? I don't know.
Right,
Like,
right.
See what I can do.
Right.
See what I can do. But give us your spark notes, maybe. What have you been up to the last couple months? Because the last time we were together, we had our amazing roundtable. So a huge shout out again to those 4 amazing ladies for taking time to be on there. I've gotten a lot of feedback about that episode. A lot of people really, really loved what those 4 ladies brought to the roundtable.
And can we just talk about them all being beautiful?
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Stunning.
we don't have ugly people on the podcast.
We have a no ugly people.
Can we say that?
I don't know if
No
we
ugly
can.
people on the podcast.
I don't think I know ugly people.
That's right. Just surround yourself with beautiful people and you'll
Correct.
go places.
Everyone's beautiful
It's
in
true.
their own
Everyone's
way.
got
I
their
love
own
it.
beauty. Yeah, absolutely true. But that was a lot of fun. I did get a few people that asked, "Are we going to do another one?"
Yeah.
I would like to. I think that would be
I
a
think
goal
we
for
should.
this year at some point, hopefully.
I also think it would be fun, for whoever's managing your social media for the Real Chat podcast.
Oh, she should be on it.
She sucks. That would be me, by the
You got
way.
fired.
But I do think that we should definitely do some excerpt clips and drop those into
Absolutely.
our social media because they had some great nuggets. Some
Yes.
of these ladies had some great nuggets.
I think that's valuable too for the listener.
Very
to
much
kind
so.
of
Yeah,
bring
not
it
everybody's
back.
got an
and
hour to sit down and listen.
I
to the
always
whole thing.
forget. Yep. If I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm like, oh, I forget all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what's that bullet point again?
It's true.
Yeah.
And it's so if you
So
want to.
we check with your social media manager on
Correct. We'll send an email
Yeah.
right now. Make sure
might
she's
need
still
a raise.
employed. I think so.
You
she
pay
needs a
her more.
vacation is what she needs. Yeah,
Amen.
we'll work on that for her. But the full episode to watch is on YouTube if you do want to go and watch. Depends on if you're a watcher or a listener. Obviously, it's in our podcast feed. It was the last one that we dropped just before this.
I think it
as
would
well.
be cool to do something like that quarterly.
Yes, I
With-
agree with you.
Guests like 4 times a year or something.
Yeah,
I love that.
Where we could sit down and gather those business owners that we've either had on the podcast or haven't had on the podcast and really have a good, wholesome conversation 4 times a year. I think that'd be cool.
Well, and I think it's fair to say that although all of those ladies are very prominent in the community, they didn't all know each other.
Correct.
No, which I
is really
love.
cool.
Right?
Yeah.
We were kind of like that center to kind of
Correct.
create that conversation,
Yep.
which I think is really kind of like the gist of this podcast is to create that authentic conversation that you wouldn't necessarily always be able to have in
Right.
any certain scenario, even just having coffee with a person.
Correct.
And so many
know.
similarities to why they
Totally.
started their business, how they started their business. Many young moms in the room.
Yes,
The
very
hustle,
much so.
the-
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I think that stood out to me also was how kind each of them are, right? Like, and I
yeah.
know that sometimes people say like, oh, like you need to be kind when you're in business because obviously you want to not be taken advantage of, but like the kindness that radiates from each of them in their own respective fields was contagious, truly.
Agreed.
And it was just so fun to be able to just kind of listen to how they each do their own things and see how they manage their team. Some of them have teams, some of them are their own person, right? Like, and just how they go about their business. And like, this is why you're successful, among other things. But like, it's because you're a kind, good person that people like, yeah, of course I want to support you.
And the humility factor.
Totally.
Yep. Yes,
right?
very much
all
so.
of these ladies have done some pretty incredible things, and they're all like, oh, well, right?
Sometimes it's good to be able to brag about your work, though. I think.
I
like
don't
they
disagree.
sit there and they're like humble, right? But
like,
also
yeah,
they're like, I don't have it all together. I'm like, you seem like you have it all together.
Correct.
But even just in that moment, like they were so humble. But then you take a step back and you actually like process what they're doing for themselves, for their families, for the community, for the people around them. That's really cool.
Exactly.
And I do love that they all seem to genuinely be cheerleaders for other women in business in our community, even for women in the same industries that they're in.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think that's super admirable, because I do know that women can be tough, right?
That's
and
a good
industries
word.
can be tough too.
Myself included. I mean, I've got a competitive spirit, right?
Yeah.
So it can be hard with people in my own industry. I want to cheer for them, but I want to be better than them, like that kind of thing. But
plus, it's like the industry itself is so competitive.
So competitive.
Correct.
Aesthetics,
Hair, all of that.
photography. Like it's such a competitive industry. All on its own.
Right.
And then you get those people that are winners by nature. And they, you know what I mean?
So those are people that I want on quarterly. I want people that are championing for other businesses in our community.
That are supporting others.
Yeah, that are supporting and that are humble but are successful.
Yes.
And that are going to provide great tips for the future entrepreneurs in our community.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, the future leaders.
I'm campaigning right now that our summer one is still on the boat. So like if we do a summer roundtable, we'll figure out who those guests are, and we're just going to all do it on the boat. I dressed for the boat last year and never got on the boat.
Can we do it on the patio and then go on the boat?
That's fair.
For the rest of the
I think that's a good idea.
Because it might be a little tricky.
Allie would be on the tube on the back.
Spend the whole day on the boat.
And then do the podcast.
And then do the podcast at sunset.
There we go. With wine in our hands. That sounds...
Weekend.
That'll get...
There we go.
That'll get hits for sure.
That would be a must listen to episode.
100% we can do that.
I don't know if this happened to either of you the last couple of weeks, but I think for me personally, like I forget, number one, how long we've been doing this show. And I forget the impact that it has on people, because the amount of people that I've had individually that I didn't think were listeners, not that nobody can't listen, but would come up to me or send me a message and, hey, like, when are you coming back? Because it's an integral part of my week. Like I listen to you when I'm doing this, or that episode that you talked to, Maggie Cox was amazing, or you talked to whatever, like that really hit me in such a way. And I was like, you forget sometimes, right? Because we sit here, we talk, we kind of just have fun with what we're doing.
We do it because we hang out together.
Correct. This is a forced way to hang out, right? We love spending time together, and this helps us do that. But I was reminded the last month and a half how much of an impact this show does have for people and how loyal our audience is, which I'm very grateful for.
I think that's amazing. Allie, have you had anybody like directly, like we know people have said, oh, we listen, or oh, it's fun.
Yeah.
Or, but have you had anything like Baxter said, have you had a one time where someone really was like, oh my gosh, you impacted me, and you were like, oh, I forgot we do this, and it does make a difference.
So remember when I said I forget a lot?
Oh, she doesn't have one.
I will say over the course of last year, a lot of my year was a blur.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that I'm closely affiliated with, like they have come to me and said, like, I love listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm very like, I go to the coffee shops a lot, and I'm visiting the coffee shops, and that's where I have
your
all
social media doesn't show that you're ever in a coffee shop.
That's where all of my conversations happen. She's in the coffee shop. If you're ever worried about where I'm at, it's probably somewhere on Broadway in De Pere.
Yeah.
That's a very valid start there. Start there.
And I've had a couple times where people, I can't like obviously quote them, but a couple times where people have just said like the conversations that you have, even just opening up the conversation has been impactful for them on their business, which is really cool.
I think it's twofold. People used to refer to me as the lady that owns the magazine, right? In Ledgeview. Oh, you have that magazine.
Oh, now you have the podcast?
No, I've got
the podcast
It's
lady.
fun. I'm like, of our 37 followers,
that's
somebody
so cool.
knows me for the podcast.
I think that's
kidding.
cool. Hey, get 37 people in a room.
Hey,
with you to support you.
I used that example the other day.
And that is
true.
And then I do have
powerful.
a one-time story. It was interesting. her name's Jessie. Well, her maiden name was Jessie Murphy. So that's what I knew her at as high school. She was a couple years behind me. So we were in a few athletics and things together. And she actually married a guy that I graduated with. And she's always kept in touch via social media. She's the sweetest thing. And she reached out and cool. she has a full-time job, but she started doing like a bakery type thing for holidays. She always does all of our fudge and all of our cookies. We always order it from her. My mom just says, let's not bake it. Let's get Jessie to do it. And it's interesting because she reached out and she said, if I remember the message correctly, she's like, had I heard this 10 years ago, I might have made a different choice. Like I might have tried to dive in. And I was like, wow,
interesting.
And I'm like, well, you're never too old.
Correct.
Right?
100%
Right.
true.
So I'm 49. She's got to be mid 40s. Like you're not too old to do it. But I think there is a lot of people that don't take the next leap because they're just not sure how to do it.
Sure.
In a lot of areas of our lives. Right. But so that was one that really, and I'm like,
That's
oh my
so cool.
God, she's all the way in South Dakota. Look at our reach.
Yeah. Look at that.
500 miles away.
That's so cool.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's
Absolutely.
kind of fun. It's always fun locally, but also fun when you've got the whole group in.
Yeah.
So
love that.
yeah, so we just wanted to jump on quick. This is a short and sweet little update on a little bit of where we've been.
Yes.
More to come on that.
Yeah.
We've got
Absolutely.
some great guests lined up for 2025 that we're
Yes.
super excited about. We'd also love to hear from our listeners. Who would you like to see on the show?
Yeah.
And
Topics that you
if
would
you
like
could-
us to talk about?
yeah, if you could pick 3 people that you'd like to see in our quarterly roundtable, who would it be?
that's
Or
a
do you
good
want
one.
it to be you?
Oh,
Who would it
yeah.
be?
Even, yeah, please.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to start a
Feel free to
business.
Self-nominate, right? As it were, right? We'd love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
love
we'll
it.
be back on as regularly as we can.
Yeah, Mondays are the plan, but
Try not to rely on social media for any updates. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thanks for listening.
Bye.